I have spent the last decade of my life immersing myself in the real estate industry as a real estate broker and now also as a real estate consultant. And one of the most common questions I encounter from buyers is, how do I buy a foreclosed property? As real estate investors ourselves, my husband and I also tried our hand in acquiring foreclosed assets. I have shared the process and how we bought our first foreclosed property. You can check the card here, and I'll also put the link in the description. In this video, I will be sharing the 4 steps on how to buy a foreclosed property from BDO. This process is specific to BDO, although it might be similar with other banks as well. If you want to know how to buy a foreclosed property from BDO, then check this video out and hit subscribe if you like this content. Step number 1, reserve the property. Let's say you've already decided on a property that you want to acquire owned by BDO. If it is a new listing, then it will still be up for bidding. This means you will need to submit your bid to your broker, and whoever has the highest bid will win the auction. Properties for bidding will have a set selling price, and then you will need to start bidding at that price or higher for your bid to be eligible. As a general rule, the more bidders there are, the higher your bid needs to be if you really want to win. As a broker, I can make a suggestion as to what a competitive bid would be. I usually base this on the number of bidders and how desirable the property is. However, the last decision is of course up to you as a buyer. There are no guarantees since it is a sealed bidding and we won't know what the other bids are. BDO has a specific date for bidding and a deadline for accepting bids as well. If the bidding period has passed and no one bid on the property, then it will be put up on BDO's website for a negotiated sale. This means that you can offer to purchase the property at their set selling price. BDO functions on a first-come, first-served basis. This means that whoever will be first to submit the reservation requirements will be first in line to get the property. Now, what are the reservation requirements? We have filled up offer to buy form, ATOR or authority to offer and reserve, photo of check for reservation fee. So the amount should be 5% of the total contract price. Payee is BDO. 2 valid IDs with 3 specimen signatures. For the offer to buy form and ATOR, you can request these 2 forms from your broker. We can send you the forms and you have the option to fill them up yourself, or you can give us the information needed for us to be able to fill up the forms for you. The next thing you need to prepare is a check for the 5% reservation fee. Let's say the total contract price of the property is 10 million. The down payment of 20% is 2 million. So the reservation fee at 5% of the total contract price is 500,000. The down payment balance is 1.5 million. So the loanable amount at 80% would then be 8 million. So the amount on the reservation check should be 500,000. Once you've issued the check for the reservation, take a photo and send this along with the rest of the reservation requirements to your broker. Your broker will then be in charge of sending it to BDO. All the bank needs for now is a photo of the check. It will only be deposited once the property has been awarded to you. Step number 2, BDO acknowledges receipt of reservation requirements. So once the email is received by BDO, they will then review the reservation requirements and then ask for additional documents. Usually, they will request for the buyer's income documents. So if you're locally employed, you will need to submit your COE or Certificate of Employment, payslips for the past 3 months, and ITR for the past 2 years. For business owners, financial statements for the past 2 years and ITR for the past 2 years. And for OFWs, it's COE or job contract and payslips for the past 3 months. Once all these requirements are complete, you will need to email the hard copies to BDO Manila as they are the ones handling their foreclosed assets. The 2 forms, the ATOR and the offer to buy form, will need to be originally signed. So although e-signatures are acceptable for other banks, BDO requires wet signatures for all the documents. The 2 valid IDs will also need 3 specimen signatures on the side, similar to this photo. The signatures, again, all need to be wet signatures. Step number 3, buyer approval plus full payment of the down payment. So once the screening is done and buyer has been approved by BDO, the bank will send an email informing the buyer that they have already been approved and the property has now officially been awarded to them. So the next step is to deposit the 5% reservation fee. Then the bank will process the sale in favor of the buyer. If the offer has been approved by the management and the reservation fee of 5% has been deposited and the client wants to back out for whatever reason, the reservation fee will be forfeited. So as the buyer, you need to make sure that you will go through with the sale before depositing the reservation fee. The timeline for processing is about 1 month. All the buyers, whether they're paying in cash or buying the property via bank financing, will need to pass through this screening process. So while screening is ongoing, the buyer can start processing their home loan at the BDO Home Loan Department. So I have a step-by-step video on bank financing. I'll put it up in the card above and also link it in the description. As your broker, I will also be assisting you with your home loan application. I will be facilitating everything for you, so you just need to provide me with the needed home loan requirements. Once the bank has finished processing this account, they will send another email to the buyer. Then the buyer will need to deposit the remaining 15% so the total down payment will be completed at 20%. What are the other expenses? So there's no need for appraisal fee if via bank financing. Transfer tax is about 6% of the total contract price, so that's only an estimate. The bank will give you a detailed breakdown. Bank will be the one to shoulder the EWT or expanded withholding tax, and there will be a 25,000 peso service fee for the bank to transfer the title from the bank's name to the buyer's name. If the buyer will be paying in cash, then the buyer will need to be the one to do the title transfer, and there is no more need to pay for the service fee for title transfer. So this means that you will need to prepare this amount on top of the 20% down payment. As an investor, you'll already be able to save on the taxes by buying a foreclosed property compared to a private listing, because the total taxes and fees for private listing are about 9.5%. And with developers, if it's above 3.199 million, there's also an additional 12% VAT. You can check out my video on the taxes and fees when buying real estate in the card above. We'll also put the link in the description. Typically, with private listings, you will need to pay 6% CGT, 1.5 doc sums tax, taxes at City Hall and ROD, which add up to 9.5%. But with foreclosed properties, you will no longer need to pay the CGT, since what needs to be paid for foreclosed transactions is expanded withholding tax or EWT, and the bank will be the one to shoulder this. So big savings na on the taxes pa lang. And then step number 4, payment of taxes and fees plus property turned over. So once you have fully paid the 20% down payment and the loan has been released, within 7 days, the bank will release the contract to sell and deed of sale for your signature and prepare the property for turnover. Once ready, you'll just need to go to the bank to sign the documents. They'll also sign on their side and have it notarized, and then they will give you a copy. You will also need to pay for the taxes and fees so the bank can start transferring the title from BDO to your name. BDO will also release a statement of account or a SOA for the real property tax and homeowners association dues. Since the bank pays for the entire year, they'll be asking for a reimbursement for any advance payment made. Don't worry, as they will prorate this. So for example, if the property got sold in March of 2023, then the bank will shoulder until March of 2023, and then from April to December of 2023, the buyer will need to reimburse the bank. Bear in mind that banks do batch processing, so it's going to take a lot longer compared to if you did it yourself or outsourced it to a processor. Banks usually take 6 to 12 months to do title transfer. If the buyer pays in cash, then again, they will need to transfer the title themselves, so meaning you will take it out of the bank and do it yourself. If the property is acquired through bank financing, then the bank will be the one to transfer the title for you. Once the notarized copies are released, they will then turn over the property to you. Prior to turnover, the bank will update all utility payments and homeowners association dues, so just make sure to check on the receipts for these. Then it will be the buyer's responsibility to transfer the utilities like the electricity and water from the bank to your name. So again, the 4 steps in buying a foreclosed property from BDO are: first, reserve the property. Step number 2, BDO acknowledges the receipt of reservation requirements. Step number 3, buyer approval plus full payment of the down payment. Step number 4, payment of taxes and fees plus property turnover. If you found this video interesting, all I ask for is a subscribe. And if you want a compilation of BDO-owned foreclosed properties we have in CDO or even in other cities, then send me an email so we can forward you a copy.